Hello, faithful, and welcome to another edition of White Throne Metal Radio's video of the day. I don't know what we want to call this particular episode. Didn't think about it too much before I sat in front of the camera, except let's talk about compilation albums. I'm your host, Keven Crothers, station manager for White Throne Metal Radio, along with staff writer for Heaven's Metal Magazine and host of the Throne Room podcast. You can see links if you want to check out Heaven's Metal Magazine. We're online. All of that kind of stuff. Check out in the description below a link to go there if you like. White Throne Metal Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Heavy metal, hard rock, classics, but also current stuff like Godman, Deny the Fallen. Yes, we play some Demon Hunter. Yes, we play Vengeance Rising, we play Striper, we play Deliverance, Impilitary, Rob Rock, Extol, huge array of stuff. I hope you check it out. Like I say, classics and current stuff. Not a lot of power punk on there, not a lot of stuff like that. But if you like heavy metal, hard rock, new stuff and old, check us out. 24 hours a day, the link's in the description below. Throne Room Podcast, again hosted by me, and just having fun with that, playing music, because you can't get White Throne Metal Radio everywhere. You can check us out on Facebook as well. Enough of the commercial. Let's talk about compilation albums. Compilation albums, essentially, like most of you know what they are, really took off, I think, in the early 80s when Metal Blade released stuff like Metal Massacre and Mike Varney's Shrapnel label, where, I remember it was U.S. Guitarists Kill. I used to see those ads in Circus and Hit Parader magazine. Well, compilation albums were always a great way to hear bands that maybe you weren't familiar with. Maybe you didn't want to plunk down $10 to buy a record, and you wanted to hear a variety of stuff. These days, obviously, with the internet, with Spotify, YouTube, we kind of miss all of that. Yes, for those of us who are older, we enjoy going into the record store, and maybe you probably meet some friends, right? Make new friends, or see someone you knew and said, hey, and you go in and someone says, hey, check this out. And there was a real sense of community. We talk about community online. It's there. It's still not quite the same thing. But compilation albums, I'm going to go through a whole bunch of compilation albums here. This video is going to run a little bit longer. And I'm going to I'll tell you about some of my favorite compilation albums. Some of them really introduced many of us to brand new bands, and with that, let's just dive in. This is a current compilation record. This came out 3 years ago, and really this was a memorial, and this was a tribute, Metal Pulse Radio. This was issued by Rottweiler and Rox Productions concurrently. There is a digital format, and then there was a limited pressing of the Metal Pulse Radio. This was a tribute to Dale Huffman, the host of Metal Pulse Radio, who passed away from cancer about 3 years ago now. And the CD itself had 16 songs on it. There are a lot of pictures of a bunch of us in there. On February 9th, 2017, Dale Huffman lost his battle to cancer. And I was very fortunate to meet Dale, a couple times. And I was also very fortunate to get a picture in here. I met him the first time about 10 years ago now. Me sporting the beard down here. But on this compilation, they did a great job. A band called Dynasty from Brazil, Promised Land, Join the Dead, Rainforest, Biogenesis. Some of these were previously unreleased at the time, Sunroad, Messenger, Worldview, Grave Robber, Stairway, Shining Force, The World Will Burn, Titanic, and Saint. The digital download had about 30 more songs to it, and a lot more extreme stuff than what you find on the CD. But this CD always will be a very special part of my collection. But Metal Pulse Radio, you could probably find them. You know, I know they're out of print, but you could probably find them. Here's one. I picked this one up not too long ago. This goes back to the late 90s, early 2000s. It's a double disc. Christian Loud, Rock On. There are 30 songs on here. Most of these were tracks that you could get in other places. I remember when I picked this up, it was because there's a couple of songs on here, if I remember right, from a band called Brighton that I really wanted to hear. I hadn't heard forever. A band called Glisten, Justified, you know, quite a bit. But the normal band, not normal, but the bands you would all know, I'm sure, Shout, Angelica, White Cross, Blood Good, Deliverance, Tourniquet, Sacred Warrior, Mortification, Vengeance, and it's listed as Vengeance, ironically, not Vengeance Rising. That's kind of interesting. Magdalene, Zion, Mastodon, Messiah Prophet. You know, what happened back in the day, guys, is that when bands signed to the Christian labels, there are different types of rights and publishing and things. I mean, you have the rights to who owns the masters, who owns those original recordings, who owns the rights to the publishing, that is radio royalties, or if it was licensed to somebody, who gets that type of royalty payment back. And so a lot of Christian bands back in the day, they were screwed over, frankly, because they didn't know. And so what would happen, a band would leave a label or put out a couple records and disband. They wouldn't have any control over their own material. They wrote it, they did all this to it, but the record label or whoever owns the rights to that material, they have control. So a lot of times, you know, bands, they don't get anything off of these. I remember I picked this up in a used store back, like I said, a couple of years ago. Here's another one, Hard and Heavy from Down Under. This is a Row Productions, Rugged Records. This came out in the, 95? And this was one, you'll have to excuse me, because from about 1993, 94, till about 2007, I had kind of stepped away from the scene, frankly. And I did that because I went to school, got my degree in theology, I did some pastoral work for a few years, and God just took me in different directions. Got married, had kids, and all of this kind of stuff, and so it wasn't something that I could do. You know, I just didn't have the money. So I've been kind of going back over the last 10 to 15 years now and back collecting a lot of stuff, because the Great Purge of 2000, 2001, a lot of stuff I used to have is long gone. So this one here, Hard and Heavy, I picked this up off of eBay. This had tracks from Mortification, Cry Mercy, Metanoia, Screams of Chaos, Callous, Ethereal Scourge, Embodiment, and, you know, mostly death metal. If I remember right, there's a couple of bands that were more punk, I shouldn't say punk, but more hardcore. So it's a heavy disc as far as the music goes, and a lot of it are demo sounding tracks, frankly, not finished songs. Like here, these are all professionally produced, some major studio somewhere. This was more like you'd get a Metal Massacre 1 or Metal Massacre 3, right? How about another one? This one goes way back. This is 1992. This is the Demolition compilation. Compilation from REX. This one had tracks from Thresher, Mortal Enemy, Consecrator, Abhor Evil, Hot Pink Turtle, Sardonyx Immortal, The Unknown. And if I remember correctly, The tracks are not in order at all. As a matter of fact, when you load this into your CD player, your computer, the track listing is all wrong. And that might be a different disc, but I'm pretty sure it's this one. So I had to kind of sort through going, I think that's Sardonyx, and I think that's Thresher. And Dadahavu, I'm not familiar. Hot Pink Turtle, I know recorded some other kind of funky metal albums. Thresher, obviously, I'm familiar with Thresher. Familiar with Sardonyx, a different Immortal. Consecrator, you know, recorded other material as well. Something else to pick up there. Here's another compilation. Don't worry, some of you are waiting for the classics. I got a whole stack here too. So just kind of going through these. This was one I picked up. I can't remember if I picked this up or if it was sent to me for a review. Christian Metal Fellowship. This was distributed by Divine Metal Distro. Sullen Records. This is compilation volume 2. I don't believe I have volume 1 at all. This is all dark death metal, extreme metal, core. I mean, bands like A Hill to Die Upon, Dark Lay Still, Erasmus, Northern Ash, Monotheist, Gondolin, Nephish, In Grief, Fire Throne, Erasmus. I mean, there's black metal on here. This is one of those ones that if you're trying to dig deep and you want to get, like, sometimes I feel like I don't know who half of these bands are, right? So you kind of have to go back and get into it a bit. Again, it had a little Metal Pulse radio. If you can see that, sorry to kind of wave that around there. Metal Pulse radio logo there on the inlay. Just another cool underground compilation. How about the compilations? These are actually samplers, frankly. This one's from Bombworks Retroactive and Born Twice, Matt Hunt's label. They did a lot of these. You can find this one's got, 20 songs on here. Everything from Saint to Vision, Daniel Amos, Rex Carroll and the Bleed, Mass, Amaziah, Dagon, A Hill to Die Upon, I Am the Messenger, and Disaffection. I mean, these things are very cool. Basically, again, this was done in conjunction with Heaven's Metal. You know, got the little stamp down there. This one was from 2000 and probably 2011. This was the issue number 89 sampler CD. Some great stuff on here. Here's another sampler, Heaven's Metal. This is from 2000 straight up. Again, another sampler. And I think this one, frankly, I picked up. It's got Tourniquet, Stalker, Eloy, Mojam, Balance of Power, Threefold Chord, Under Command, Shout, Fountains of Tears, Pillar. You know, I think I picked this up for like $1 at a used CD shop. I used to find a lot of this stuff. You don't find too many of these things now. Here's one from Rocks from 2018. This is the Rocks Records No Life Till Metal, best of 2018. And just it's a sampler. A lot of cool Max Blam Jam, Banshee, Primal, Christovox, Deliverance, Vengeance, Through the Clouds, Soldier, Biogenesis, Helix. You know, it's these cool little samplers. You know, of course, nowadays, like I say, most people, they just want to, can I just go to YouTube and listen to it? All right. I mean, it's cool. I just like to collect stuff. I like to be able to go back because, honestly, the minute my computer crashes, man, I'm up a creek. Here's a classic one for you. This goes back to 1989. I'm just double checking to make sure it wasn't 1990. 1989, which is Heavy Righteous Metal Volume 2. I do not have Volume 1. And the reason why I never picked up Volume 1 was I was never a big fan, frankly, of buying I bought the albums when they would come out. Buying a compilation CD with songs I already have, not really my favorite thing to do. Just seemed kind of redundant. Now, I'd collect it if I could find it and it wasn't $30. I mean, this particular album, it's It's got a track on here from Legacy. Now, Legacy, melodic heavy metal band like Striper, Holy Soldier. They did release a record. I have a CD of it around here somewhere. Thank you, Mr. Stephen Craig. And we'll actually get another one of those 10 one-off album kind of shows. But this one, had a track from Exalt, The Crucified, Torn Flesh. We all remember Torn Flesh, right? Lust Control. I mean, Lust Control never released a record for pure metal. Madeline Murray O'Hare. Torn Flesh, again, never released a record for pure metal. They did release one, Crux of the Mosh, but I don't believe it was on pure metal. Rosanna's Raiders, One Bad Pig, Bride. Kind of fun. Chapter 2. How about another, this was another Rox Records release, Thrashmageddon Volume 1. All thrash bands, everything from Deliverance, Ultimatum, Savo, Inc. And this was done in conjunction with Metal for a Dark World, Moshketeers, Spirits Breeze, Temple of Blood, Fearsome Warrior was the track, Suppression, Divulgence. Divulgence were great. Disaffection as well. Prepare to Die was previously unreleased. Another great song from Disaffection. There was a Sacravox, I've still got the glossy sleeve on there, so I hope you can see it. This was another sampler from 2018. It was a sampler for the Sacravox Festival in Southern California. I didn't get a chance to go to that. You had a punk stage, you had a metal stage, there were bonus tracks. Bonus tracks from like Perpetual Paranoia, Final Prophecy, 13 Minutes. Those have all been on their regular releases now. Hand of Fire, Crushing the Deceiver, Biogenesis, Symbiosis, which is now on I think Rox redid, was on a vinyl version of a Biogenesis release. Grave Robber on the punk side. Cool little, sampler for the festival. All right, I think now from what some of you have probably been waiting for, are you going to talk about any of this other stuff? Absolutely. So let's go. I found this. I didn't buy it back in the day, and you know what? This is the one. This is the CD where the songs, I don't believe, are in any kind of correct order. Yep. This is Underground Metal Volume 2. And I paid $3.99 for it in a used bin. Yeah, this is a score. I'd seen this for much more. And it was just kind of back collecting. Regency Records. You could have put band photos back there, but the artwork, again, the labels back then, they didn't have money. They didn't want to spend any money. So on this one, the tracks, you submitted your stuff and they put it on here, frankly. That's kind of, if I remember correctly, that's what it sounded like. You had Zion on here, Kicking the Gates, Exalt, Dark War, Philip Hardy's Chalice, Victim of the Night, melodic poppy metal, really cool, frankly. Back in the day, I didn't think so much, but cool songs nonetheless. Never got a major release. I know he released independently. Iron Wraith, The Stranger, Night Riot, Kiss the Black, Thresher, Apocalypse, Prepare, Image, Lost. Now, I'm trying to remember, I can't remember exactly Image, as far as who they are. Somebody had actually kind of went through on the inside. I already showed this briefly, but you can see somebody went through. It wasn't me. They listed what track was which one on the inside. So when you loaded it into your CD, track number 1 here was Zion, Kicking the Gates. And because track number 1, it's just all screwy. So anyhow, Underground Metal Volume 2. How about White Metal Warriors, Last Ship Home? Another one I back collected. Tracks from Seventh Angel, Heed the Warning. Now this, I've never gone back through and listened to, I believe, the demo version that was on the Heed the Warning demo. It's been so long since I've heard that. Seventh Angel, actually, Matt Hunt at Retroactive did a compilation, put all their demos together. So they were thrash metal, European sounding thrash metal, and quite good. This had 2 tracks on here from Stairway, 2 tracks from a band called Lazarus. I have no clue. If anybody else can shed some light, please. Also 2 tracks from Detritus, Taste the Blood and Subliminal Division. This was released, this was a Edge Music, this was licensed by Starsong, you know, through Pure Metal, but it was all European bands. Again, no pictures, no photos, very cool artwork in the front. I'm not totally sure if that is Randy Matthews artwork. I think it's Randy Matthews. Please don't throw darts at me if I got that wrong. I don't know if it actually, no it doesn't. Just on the inside it's just lyrics. It doesn't tell you who's in the band, you know, who sang, who did what, just band names and song titles. Okay. How about Premium Cuts? This is Rugged Records. 3 tracks from the Baron Cross album, Rattle Your Cage. 3 tracks from the Red Sea one-off album. 3 tracks done by Neon Cross. Now, I do not have Torn, but I don't believe these 3 tracks appear at all on Torn, which is Buy My Record, Mystery of Love, or In Your Mind. If I'm wrong on that, please someone correct me in the comments. But that Neon Cross, those 3, Buy My Record's a great song. These 3 songs were very heavy. And then 3 songs from P.K. Mitchell, which was a kind of a hard rock, heavy metal praise album. The tracks here, Nothing But the Blood, Amazing Grace, and Do You Believe. And the album they were coming from was Hail the Power. Now, I don't have that P.K. Mitchell album. Someone have a CD they want to throw my way. I even take some downloads. It's cool. I'm not... These days, you know, it's just one of those things where I do like to back collect and the stuff that I missed, but I just know my hard drives on my computer are filling up rapidly. And if I'm going too fast there, sorry about that, guys. And here's another. This is the 3rd one that Intense Records did, Hot Metal Summer. For 3 years in a row. I don't know if they did a 4th one. They might have. You got a it's very interesting. If you didn't grow up back then, it became something very cool. It was different. Frontline Records with Intense Records, they did basically this is a compilation with interviews, and then on one of the issues they put out, they actually did music videos, and they all were pretty cool. The quality of the videos, everybody's seen the Deliverance one. You can go on, you know, the Ken Tamplin and all that kind of stuff, Ransom, Tourniquet, pretty cool stuff. This one, why they never did a Sacred Warrior one, I'm not sure, or Bloodgood, frankly, but this one, you know, it's got Tourniquet, Deliverance, Sacred Warrior, Vengeance Rising, Recon, Bloodgood, Scattered Few, and then some sneak previews, and then some interview clips. The sneak previews were basically snippets from like Angelica, Ransom, a track from David Safiro, the song Blue Ice, and boy, you can tell these are, you've got to love that pink artwork. And again, no photos at all, but it was these were done very inexpensively. A lot of cassettes. I think I used to have the first 2 on cassette. I think they primarily, if I remember right, did them as a cassette only, and then the 3rd one here they released as a CD. So Hot Metal Summer 3, another cool old school. And now I'm getting down to kind of the, where we say the nitty gritty, right? Part of it here, we'll go to this one first. Underground Metal. And here you had Armada. It's Only Rock and Roll. Bjorn Stigson, Come On. Chariot from Florida. Step Into Light. Chosen Stranger with So Glad. Mercy Rule, Cities Are Burning. Paragon, Why Are There So Many Sinners? Why hasn't there been a Paragon reissue on their demos? Brilliant, progressive, hard rock. kind of like Rush, but not. Features the amazing drumming of Mr. PJ. It goes PJ Bostic, Paul Rohraback. Brilliant stuff. Paradox, Ruler, Torn Flesh, No Surfing in Hell, and Watchmen, Fear No Evil on this. And just very basic. This was all done by Regency Records. Again, just lyrics on the inside. But, the Bjorn Stigson is funny because it was that same year, I believe, 88, 89, when the solo album he had recorded came out, together with friends, and Come On was on it. Chariot, I always thought I wish the song Truth they had recorded is a great song. Wish it had made it on here. Just my own choice. But now this is what a compilation back in the day. You get this, none of these bands were on any kind of album, and it was very cool. And if I remember correctly, per Mr. Dave Johnson, the Regency went out and said, okay, asked several of the editors of the various magazines at the time, who were some of the best bands that are unsigned that would be good for this? And so they got to pick. Everybody got to pick one band with one song. So the Bjorn Stigson, I don't know how that ended up on there because it was a full album. How about, here's another one, Regency Records, the same year, East Coast Metal. And East Coast Metal, you had Apostle, Arsenal, Believer, Rage of Angels, Second Chance, who became Armageddon, Taker, and The Lead. A really cool... This one actually got pictures, right? I mean, come on, it's in black and white, but you got photos. And then you got the lyrics and whatnot on the inside. But you got photos of the bands. I never could understand that. But because that was not expensive to create. I'm not a graphic artist, but East Coast Metal on a black background. Pretty straight up, right? This one, we got the taste of Apostle, another band vastly overlooked. Should have gotten a deal. They were probably approached, but knowing they had a very strong business sense, and it would have been nice just to get a one-off album, Most of the labels back then, they wanted to ink you for 5 records, and most bands, it's like, who wants to be locked into a Christian label for that long? That was really the deal, I think, back then. They're not getting it by the time 1988, 1989, 1990, it was coming around going, save your publishing, try to keep your control of your material. It just was, it was a difficult time. But on this particular release, Second Chance, they became Armageddon, signed it, their Armageddon, released the album, The Money Mask, Rage of Angels, their debut came out after this, Believer. The song's called The Chosen, and it was also a track off of a demo, but these were all done in a studio. All of this stuff was done in a studio. So, talk too much. Cal Metal Volume 2, video cut off. I had to take it out, download it, so we'll wrap this up here pretty quick. The last two here. This one, again, Mr. Stephen Craig, thank you so much. I don't have a cassette of this. I thought I might still have one somewhere. I might. I can't find it at this point, but that is White Metal Invasion. This is a personalized CD pressing. This particular compilation, White Throne magazine. We were doing everything typing. We were doing this very old school typewriters. We had to do cut and paste by hand, took it to a printer. I mean, this whole thing. And at the time, about 1987, 1988, there was so much to do. Dave Johnson, the editor at the time, one of my best friends, he was like, dude, we need a computer. I just can't afford to buy. And he did all this research based on what you could do. This, we're talking 35 years ago or whatever. And he wanted to get a Mac. Okay. So Stephen Craig, he put together, had volunteered to kind of take this project on. I don't exactly remember how he and Dave communicated in that way. I think primarily he was one of these guys who just had contacted Dave and said, hey, I'd love to do anything I could with the magazine. And with that, we put this cassette together, and it was a fundraiser. So all of the bands agreed to donate a song, and with that, there's not going to be publishing or anything like that, but it would allow us, we would, to use whatever money we make to buy the computer. And I forget exactly how many copies of the cassette were out there circulating. And about 4 or 5 years ago now, Steve Craig, we were emailing a little bit back and forth, and he said, hey, I could press you a CD, personalized one. I said, man, that would be awesome, because I didn't have one. I guess that's probably why. But this is a CD. This is a rarity. I couldn't even tell you this. We actually got pictures, right? But on this particular compilation, Divine Right, Kevin Brando, All I Got, Chariot from Florida, the song Truth, a great song, a classic. Emerald, Battleground. Now I got to tell you, this version of Battleground is similar to the version that you'll find on the Emerald CD that was released by the Greek label, the name eludes me, from last year. But the quality of this recording is better, in my opinion. Exalt, The Cross, Seventh Angel, I'll See You in Heaven, melodic hard rock metal band. Armada, Suicide, Soraya, Come On Get Up, Full Armor from Santa Cruz, White Knights, Soldier, Louder Than Hell, Taker, gotta love Taker, Robert Bussey, you guys rock. Look Into His Eyes, Angelica, Follow Me, Follow Him, and Apostle, Dragon Slayer, and I Am Persuaded. I would say there are probably 2 of these CDs. So professionally done. The cassettes, I remember we pulled the cover of White Throne from White Throne. This was going to be that's a Rick Hunter shot at the Omni, I believe, in Oakland. And we threw him on the cover of that. A lot of fun. That's very near and dear to me. This one is the first one because it's the first one. In 1987, there was the first His Festival, there was Metal Mardi Gras, and the first Metal Midnight. Now, I didn't make it down to Southern California for the Metal Midnight, but I was there for His one. I was there for Metal Mardi Gras. I also went, in that same year, in 87, we invited the guys from Soldier. I shouldn't say me. I'm just a dude who showed up, set up gear. That's all. Jimmy Arsenault worked with the people at the Omni, and we had Crossforce, we had Deliverance, and we had Guardian, and we had Soldier. And I can't remember if it was a Saturday night or Sunday night, and there were like 500 or 600 people at that place. It was packed. It was the place to go. And Guardian killed it. Deliverance killed it. Crossforce were phenomenal. Soldier killed it. It was a great night. There's several videos from that show. If you see Deliverance material with Marcus Colon, that's from the show at the Omni in Oakland, California, December of 1987. But the album I'm talking about, at the Metal Mardi Gras, it was announced that Bottom Line, at the time it was Bottom Line Records. Well, no, it wasn't Bottom Line Records after that. They went belly up because Metal Mardi Gras lost a ton of money. They rented the Velodrome. They thought they were going to get 5,000 to 7,000, 8,000 people. 1,500, maybe 2,000 is what the numbers I heard ultimately. And by renting all of the PA equipment, the staging, the video, all of that stuff, it died a miserable death, unfortunately. But later that same year, Dino and John Elefante, who had been working with Baron Cross, you know, they produced that first Believe EP and the Rock for the King album. They lent their hand here on this. And there's been some conversation. Why are there so many Christian bands in the late 80s you can't hear the guitar? It goes back to this record. Because Dino and John, I mean, John Elefante is a phenomenal vocalist. So as a producer, what is he going to emphasize? Vocals, melody, the hook. Now this album, you know, Baron Cross, Deadlock, which is a different version than what you hear on Atomic Arena. I think it's heavier. I think it's probably more mixed and produced on Atomic Arena than here. 2 songs from Deliverance, A Space Called You, and Attack, which when we heard Attack, we were going absolutely bonkers. Because I'd seen Deliverance, you know, at the His Festival. We saw them at Metal Mardi Gras. Unfortunately, it didn't go very well. It had technical problems, but we heard them at the His Festival, and it was amazing. 1987, you know, nobody outside of Southern California knew what was going on in SoCal, frankly. 2 songs from Guardian, Hero. They released, there was a demo or 2, never did anything else album-wise after this. 2 songs from Hero, 2 songs from Neon Cross, great tracks. And then Mastodon. Now, we weren't complaining so much about the sound, because the first thing when we heard is, wow, the production is so good. And it is. It's really excellent for the production side of things. But after a while, every Christian metal band, the producers, the labels, tried to emulate the success and the sound of what you got on this record. I bought this in '87. I don't know if it was ever repressed. Probably not. I don't know. We get to see Pastor Bob in here for the very first time. Here, this became very common. We'd see that throughout everywhere else. You know, on all those Intense Records releases. You know, Baron Cross, Neon Cross, Hero, Deliverance, Guardian, in the Armor. I love the Armor. Sorry, guys. I've always loved the Armor. I love the space atmosphere thing. To me, it was 1987. At the His Festival, it was amazing. But this was the record, in many respects, that kicked off a floodgate of better quality in what would become, I think, that sound. You know, it was heavy, but it was still it was more commercial driven. It was great stuff. There you have it, Compilation Albums. This is a very long video. If you made it all the way to the end, I appreciate that. No song clips here. This is just really, hey, let's talk about these things. And no, I'm not ever going to sell this. Never, ever. It's fantastic. So, glad you've chosen again to hang out. Got more stuff coming. Don't forget to say your prayers. God bless.